Hello everyone and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast reviews Lucha Underground. And that's right, we are back once again to give you guys the Lucha Underground review for this week. I've had an awesome time watching this week's show. I'm quite excited actually, to be honest, to speak to you about it this week and to be able to give you the lowdown on what happened in the temple and along those lines. First of all, I just want to just say to everyone that's been supporting these reviews so far, thanks a lot. You know, you've been for this is myself being it's a solo recording. I have struggled a little bit just to get into the feel of it. You know, just talking on my own and not having Matt there to back me up a lot of the time. But it's becoming more of a sort of a learning situation for myself to be able to, because I think it's because it gives me an opportunity to become better as a podcaster overall. So that's how I'm treating it here, and I do have a lot of fun talking to you guys about the Let's Talk Wrestling, the review, for Lucha Underground. Just before we get started, got to get those plugs out the way. You guys know how it is. And of course, the plugs are, if you want to join us on Facebook, it is facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. And of course, if you do want to interact with us via our Twitter account, it is @TalkWrestlePod. You can send us any private emails at letstalkwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. All that stuff will be in the description or on our channel page. It's easy to find. There's never been easier ways to get in contact with us directly. So it's all good. Now, before we get started, we do have a question this week from MC Schwabo, who's talking about the role that Dario Cueto is likely going to be playing in future episodes. Now, he's one of those guys who hasn't spent a lot of time at all in on the show at the moment. You've seen mere glimpses of what he's been up to and what he's been doing over this time. I get the feeling that the storyline with him is basically him trying to reclaim his temple and doing some very dark stuff to do that, to be able to accomplish those goals. That's how I see it going down, anyway. But I'm sure that eventually down the line, probably when things seem the most safe for Katrina and Mil Muertes as champion, then he's going to come out with Matanza and Black Lotus and basically storm the place back. That his character always wanted to be the leader of Lucha Underground. He was kind of forced out, and that's how I see it going. And he knows as well that, as a character, that he's got people coming after him. He's got Rey Mysterio, right? Who's building this crew. Towards the end of last season, he was saying they're coming. This has started a war, and a war is kind of what they seem to be kind of going towards. He knows that Mysterio or, this new Dragon Aztec or whatever is coming for him, even if he does manage to get back his temple. So he's basically making contingency plans. He's building up his brother to be his battering ram. Sorry. And that's how I see it happening. That's how I see it going down. So, and if that's the case, that's fine. I think that's great. I like the slow burn. There's no reason that Lucha Underground needs to use all their tools. Things are going fine at the moment. They've still got Mysterio. They've still got Cueto for a later stage. They're fine. They're alright. But I am missing Cueto. He was one of the huge selling points of Season 1. But I'm sure he'll be back sooner rather than later. So it'll be good stuff. Now, actually getting into the actual show. The show this week starts with Sexy Star backstage. The Mack shows up and he's telling her that he's got a match with the Moth. He's managed to secure himself a match with Marty the Moth, and he wants Sexy Star at ringside with him. She declines, of course, because she's been emotionally and mentally scarred by Marty the Moth and his sister. But Mack eventually convinced her. Now, this is good. This is a clear redemption story that they're talking about with Sexy Star. We kind of know roughly where this seems to be going, and that's okay. It's not too much of a problem. Personally, I'm a sucker for redemption stories. So as long as it's done fine, I don't have too much of a problem. And that's what it led into to start off the night. It was Marty the Moth against the Mack. Literally, right off the bat, you've got Melissa Santos doing the announcement for the Mack and for Marty, and literally Marty's just there kind of doing his thing, right, doing his Moth thing, flapping his wings and smelling Melissa Santos's hair. Man, he comes off like an absolute creep point. I know it's his character, but by God, that's something extra right there. That is Now, just a quick note here on the Mack. That no one's ever going to give this guy praise for his build, right? He's not going to get praise for being the physical specimen like someone like Cage would, who was also on this week's show. But, that being said, he's got a little bit of the Dusty peel about him, and I'm sure that Dusty Rhodes, of course. I'm sure the common man and the hard time references dropped by Matt Striker weren't by incident. You know, they were meant to kind of reinforce that he's just this common guy who likes to get in there and fight every so often, right? And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. There's not been so much more character development, if you will, from Mack. He just seems like a genuine guy, hence why he's kind of coming to Sexy Star's aid with this sort of stuff. It's not long, this match. The opening matches on Lucha don't tend to be that long, or at very least not recently, if that's anything to be to take as the new formula or whatever. Mack looks like he's got it under control until the lights go out, and is being blamed on some technical difficulties. But we know, of course, that with the a figure emerging from the backstage, it's Marty's sister. She's finally made her first appearance. We've been hearing all this time, since the end of Season 1, about this sister. She's the true threat here. Marty's more like the sidekick, not the real problem here. And that seems to be what they're going for. And she's dressed in this, like, tribal-looking... I thought it was wings when she came out, but it's almost like a cloak. It's kind of hard to say, but if you're around playing that new game, Far Cry Primal, you probably know roughly what she's rocking here. It's very, very tribal. But upon even just the sight of this woman, Sexy Star just completely breaks down. She just doesn't know where to look, how to act. She just kind of goes to the floor and recesses to nothingness kind of thing. The distraction is enough for Marty to get the victory. He beats the Mack, even though he was pretty much squashed throughout the majority of the match. And, Marty's sister, who he refers to as, I think, Mariposa. I couldn't catch that name that well, but I think it's along those lines. And, she tells Sexy Star to get up and then basically kicks her back to the floor. So this is the fabled character that we've heard so much about. I tell you one thing, because we don't know enough about this woman yet. All we've seen is just this opening sort of interaction that she's had with Sexy Star. And the one thing I will say is that one thing you always have to give Lucha Underground props for is, funny enough, their props. I think the way that they have these elaborate, almost like headdresses sometimes they come out with, or like back pieces, or just something like this, they're amazing. They're over the top and they're bonkers, but this is Lucha Underground, right? This is kind of, it fits the bill. This is kind of what we're into. This is what it's all about. So that's the main thing I can really say, because we didn't really see that much of her here. She looked frightening at first, but when she came out, it wasn't nearly as terrifying, shall we say. But yeah, you know what? I'm going to give this storyline a chance. Like I said, I'm a sucker for these redemption stories that eventually Sexy Star's going to have to get all of this behind her, the psychological damage that she's taken on. But we'll see how that fares over a certain period of time. And if we know Sexy Star can pull off a good match, we haven't seen that much this season, but hopefully the payoff to this storyline will be quite fun. We get a video package for Fenix. Now, this isn't anything particularly overly special. It's just showing some clips of him walking throughout the streets of the local area, and just him talking about how no one thought he was going to become a champion, but now he is, and now he's going to go for the world title. And the main reason I bring this up, because this isn't really that noteworthy in the context of this particular show, but I wanted to bring it up in terms of WWE. And the reason why I say that is, if you guys have watched WWE, which I'm guessing most of you do, you know that I very much dislike the lack of vignettes or video packages that they do for their talent. And that's exactly what I'm getting at here. They gave Fenix here a video package, which is great. That's awesome, and that's fine. That's great. That's obviously I'm on the side of that here. But then you look at someone like Tyler Breeze on WWE that was put into the show. Man, he was debuting and he wasn't given anything. He wasn't given anything in the terms of a video package, just opening sort of education about what this guy is and what he's about and what his deal is, right? It was just, yeah, here he is, deal with it sort of thing, right? Whereas on here on Fenix, he's an established star. He arguably doesn't need this video package, but they give it to him anyway to explain more of his story, to try and give maybe new watchers some reference of what this guy is and why you should care a little bit more about him. So fair play. And I like that, and I think that other wrestling companies should look into that a little bit more. Promotion of your stars is only going to help people care about those people, but there we are. Drago attacks Jack Evans backstage. He's pissed off about this Dragon Slayer name that's been going around, so he beats the hell out of a lamp. Not quite sure why, but okay. PJ Black arrives, and, you know, last week, it was last week or maybe a couple of weeks ago. Either way, he kind of screwed PJ Black out of his match, unintentionally, of course, but it still happened. So he teams up with Evans here, and they have a fight with nunchucks. They all have nunchucks with each other, and they have a battle to the death. Or at least it would have been, I'm guessing, until... Now, let me paint this a little bit. So they're beating him down, PJ Black and Evans. They've got Drago down and out. He's getting beaten up. And suddenly the lights go off, and all you can see is just like fireworks. And I don't know why I did this, right? Maybe it's just because I was getting into the show or whatever. Or maybe the scene itself was good beforehand. But I've never been the hugest fan of Aerostar. But upon seeing this guy go in, not saying I don't like him, I've just never been huge on him. Upon seeing him here, I legitimately let out a gasp, as if this was like a shocking thing. I don't know why, but it's awesome that I kind of nerded out a little bit here. I'm not going to run away from that. It was fine, it was fun, and that's completely fine. That's okay with me. So Aerostar comes to the rescue. Haven't seen him at all, apart from a very small segment about him talking to what I imagine to be his tribe, or something like that. In what I thought was quite a convoluted kind of mess of a video package, but that was a long time ago now. So, yeah, he comes to save him. Evans and Drago, Evans and PJ Black, they get the hell out of Dodge. And old friends, old allies. I think we all know where this is going if any of us have watched wrestling for an inordinate amount of time. We got a tag team match on the cards, that's where I'm seeing this. Teddy Long was primed and ready, but he was on the wrong show to be able to announce that to us. But that's just the way it is, unfortunately. So this leads into Cage versus Johnny Mundo, the rematch. Well, it was supposed to be at very least. Just before the match is due to start, Taya comes out, and she says that Mundo's already beaten the crap out of Cage, got a victory over him. He did beat him, remember? So now it's Taya's turn. She says that she's the perfect woman, and if Cage has the balls to fight her, then he should, of course. But we all know this. Cage is a machine, damn it. He has perfectly sculpted robotic testicles. So, if you're going to ask him about who's got the balls, he's got balls of steel. He's the machine. That's the way it works, right? Well, throughout the course of this match, considering right at the beginning, you've got Cage basically destroying Taya in the manner that you may remember Mil Muertes did to Ivelisse at the very start of the season, right, on episode 1. I mean, he's putting a hurting on her. And the only thing that really stops him, funnily enough, talking about sculpted robotic testicles, is a punch, a low blow. She put his robotic testicles to the test, shall we say. Unfortunately, machines feel low blows just as much as the rest of us. Who knew? Who knew that, right? So, the more you know. I'm surprised that in a place like Lucha Underground, they just didn't have a chant of kick her in the... as a response. I'm not even going to say that, because I had it in my notes. I'm like, no, that's just a little bit too far. I don't think I can get away with that, so... So, here we go. Talking about the match in general. The match is decent enough. It's basically Cage getting a beating on this woman. She's a newcomer. Cage is this big destructive guy, right? And I'm sure this is going to, especially with the level of maybe hardcore wrestling that they ended up getting into over the course of this match, it's going to spring a conversation about whether or not the women should be facing the men at all. Now, I've already made my feelings perfectly clear on this subject. Nothing I say is going to change anyone else's opinion. You have it, that's okay. But I don't have too much of a problem with it here, right? And the reason being is because the beating that was applied here could have been applied to any male newcomer in her stead. She was willing to go in there and take these big bumps. If that's her choice, I don't give a shit, right? And I shouldn't be making that choice for her, right? So that's the way I look at it here. This is a hell of a beating, though. This is quite a bit. Basically, she gets powerbombed. She gets thrown around. And one of the parts here that really got me is that Cage ends up suplexing Taya from inside of the ring, outside, through 2 tables. It was a point where I let out an audible, oh my god, that is completely bonkers. I'm sure I'm not the only one. The crowd popped pretty big for it, as you could probably imagine. Mundo comes out for the save, because obviously Taya's just completely just dead to rights at that point. And yeah, basically he's trying to screw out, you know, Cage into losing another match against this new team that seems to be allying themselves with each other. But it doesn't work. Cage takes a bottle to the head and then a bottle to the face, which looks absolutely brutal. Just Cage standing there, no-selling a bottle being smashed onto his face. Now, I know it's the sugar glass or whatever it's called, or the paper glass, whichever way you want to call it. But it's still, the actual look of it was pretty badass. Him just standing there and completely deadpanning and no-selling a bottle, a already broken bottle being re-broken over his face. It was pretty mental. He clears Mundo out of the ring, or Mundo just gets the hell out of Dodge at this point after witnessing that not even bottling this guy really does the job. Throws Taya into the Weapon X, and then he gets the win. Despite the interruption, of course. Now, like I said, this match is going to divide people on that gender thing, but try and look at it in the sense of gender aside. I don't have a problem with this match. I thought it was decent. I thought it sets up Cage going after Mundo. He is the big star here, right? He's the one, the more established guy who's put in, you know, he's more established character, has more potential than Taya at this current point in time. So it just makes sense that he's going after Mundo. He's trying to teach him a lesson. And if he can't do it to him, he'll do it to whoever's allied with him, right? So that seems to be the way that they're going with this. I don't have any problem. And like I said, I'm sure I've got no problem getting into a lengthy conversation about the women fighting the men on this show. Some people are going to be uncomfortable with it, and that's fine. Some people just won't like it. That's okay. It is a part of Lucha Underground, though. And it's a selling point, dare I say. But I'm sure that down the line I can have a more lengthy conversation, maybe with my co-host, in regards to the implications of such. It's a lengthy conversation I just don't have time for, right, on this show. It will probably be done on a weekend show. If we have any sort of talk about that, that's where that's going to take place. But there we are. Another awesome Famous B advertisement. And he's acting like he's a wizard here, apparently, that he can turn ugly women with no future into models with snazzy cars, which is quite the magic right there. That's quite a bit of skill from Famous B. I have no idea what this guy is actually going to do when he gets onto the main roster, but it's either going to be hilarious or cringy. And just with the way that Lucha Underground seems to be going, I'm pretty sure they're going to hit it nailed on, because the aesthetic that they're going for here in these video packages, they've absolutely nailed it. You have to watch it to be able to see what I'm talking about here. But Famous B, I'm sure a lot of people are already on his side already. And who is he going to manage, huh? Who's going to give this guy a ring that's in the temple currently, and he's going to make them famous? That's the whole thing, right? Ivelisse comes out of Katrina's office backstage, tells her boys that the tag match has been set for next week. But if they lose, they have to hit the open road, and Angelico and Son of Havoc aren't too pleased, obviously, with that particular stipulation of win or fired. But Ivelisse, basically, who is the toughest person in his roster, just basically tells them, man up, just don't be such pussies about it, essentially. And I love the way that Ivelisse comes off like the most badass member of this team. She's just like, just come on, just deal with it. What the fuck did you want, sort of thing. So, a bit of water, good stuff. Right, and I get the feeling that what they may end up doing in this is that they may even play with the idea of these guys maybe going solo for a little bit and then meeting up towards the end of the show, maybe end of the season. I mean, even Son of Havoc drops here that he's not even with Ivelisse anymore. She's his ex-girlfriend now. I don't know if they've mentioned that before, but it at very least seems to me, if I've forgotten something, that the first time they said that they've broken up. But they're just leaving it as kind of a non-issue, which is kind of like the end of this promo here, not even end of this video package. But yeah, they've got a match next week. I'm not even sure what it's for the titles. They just said they've got the match. So whatever that means, don't know. But they're going to be wrestling next week, so that should be quite interesting. This leads us to the main event of the night. Prince Puma versus Pentagon Jr. versus Mil Muertes. A big-time Lucha Underground Championship title match. Probably the highest profile match this season to date, considering the names in the ring. You're talking about heavyweight names, heavyweight characters, big hitters on this show. You can't get much bigger than Prince Puma, Pentagon Jr. and Mil Muertes. They're pretty much the big deals here. And so this is a big deal. This is a big time match, right? Muertes comes across as this just unstoppable force. And the moment that Puma and Pentagon... So Mil Muertes, over the course of this match, he just comes across as this unstoppable force, right? He's just... The moment that Puma and Pentagon give him even the slightest opening to burst out and start attacking, and start destroying it, he takes it and just destroys both men. They're basically trying to double team him. He's basically the Brock Lesnar of Lucha Underground. That's basically the way to take it, right? And there is something, when he gets going, Muertes, there's a moment in this match where the fight starts drifting off to the outside. And Mil Muertes, we know this guy, right? He is huge. He is a big, imposing figure. The sight of him doing a plancha over the top rope and to the outside is something that is, I can only describe as infinitely frightening. That is absolutely scary right there. But guys, a couple of minutes into this match, when we're talking about Mil Muertes doing planchas, you know what kind of match this is. This is a fun match. This is really good. Only a couple of minutes into it, and I'm like, yes, I can tell where this is going. Each guy is getting their hits in. Each guys are getting their spots. And I tell you what, they made what is an incredibly hard match type in a triple threat match look extremely easy. I thought this match, this main event, was a fantastic example of what Lucha Underground can offer when it's going in full throttle. When you've got three of their top guys doing their stuff at the fifth gear, going, as fast as they can, hitting as hard as they can. This is the sort of stuff that they can offer you, and it's fantastic. It was really good stuff here from all guys here. Guys are flying left, right, body, big slams, just really good wrestling, really fun pro wrestling. After a lengthy fight on the outside, Puma hits a 630 on Pentagon, but Muertes saves his championship with just milliseconds away. The crowd, by the way, hanging on the edge of a needle for this entire match. They were completely enthralled. I was enthralled. I didn't know where this was going to go. Pentagon sets up Puma's arm to be broken, but then a big spear takes him out. Pentagon. Not that Muertes was going to save Puma, of course. He gives him a spear afterwards. Gives them both a flatliner, a double flatliner at the same time. And then wins. One hell of a main event. This was a lot of fun, guys. It really was. I knew it was going to be a lot of fun when you've got these three guys in the ring doing their stuff. This is probably the best match in terms of no stipulations, just triple threat that they've done. People might argue that maybe some of the Fenix and the King Cuerno matches were better. I would say this one is better. I enjoyed this one immensely. I really did. Afterwards, you've got Muertes just standing, triumphant after retaining his championship. Katrina gives both men the lick of death. But Fenix, of all people, he stands defiant, up on the stairs leading down to the ring. And he's telling Muertes that he's cashing in his gift of the gods next week, and he's going to take his title shot. It will be Mil Muertes and Fenix next week for the Lucha Underground Championship. He's cashing in the gift of the gods. And all I can say is that this week's main event, this match here between Muertes, Puma, and Pentagon Jr., they have got so much. I mean, Fenix and Muertes next week, they've got big shoes to fill, right? They've got to top themselves again. I thought this was a fantastic match. I cannot get over how fun this match is. You've got to watch it just for the sight of Mil Muertes doing a plancha over the top right. I still can't even understand that. That shouldn't even be possible, guys. It should just, when you see guys of the size of Brock Lesnar and Mil Muertes, and you can see how agile they are in comparison to their size, it's absolutely bonkers. And that's what's so fun about watching those guys do what they can do, because they're just as agile as the 250 pounders that they're fighting, right? So it is good stuff. And of course you've got the long-term rivalry there with Fenix and with Mil Muertes. So there's a lot of stuff to look forward to next week. So all in all, what do I think of the show? I think this show was great. I honestly think this is one of the strongest shows of the season so far. I think you're looking at a decent hardcore match in the middle if you can get your head wrapped around the men fighting the women. If you can't, then I'm guessing you just didn't like that part. But I think that this episode, just for the main event, I think it could show you on its upper end, if it wants to show you a very good main event with its top level stars, that Lucha Underground can deliver under those circumstances. I hugely recommend this week's episode. I found this to be a hell of a lot of fun. And like I said, they've still got stuff. They've still got aces left in their pack to give us down at a later date if they want to. They do have Rey Mysterio. They have Dario Cueto. And his brother Matanza. So many of these storylines that they can call up on if they've got a week where their storylines aren't really going that far. And of all the storylines that Lucha Underground are doing at the moment, I'm only not interested in one of them. That's quite a decent ratio right there. You have to give them props for that. Apart from that, guys, that is my review. It's a definite thumbs up. In fact, I may even go further with that. I may even say this. I would watch this episode multiple times just for that main event. That main event was a ton of fun. So that's one of the highest reviews that I can give, really, especially here on this show. If you guys did enjoy this review, then you can leave a like. You can even leave any questions that you might want to be answered, either on the weekend show, or if it's Lucha Underground specific, here on this review every single week. And you can leave them in the comment section below. You can do that on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. You can do it on our Twitter, @TalkWrestlePod. You can even email us privately at letstalkwrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. There are plenty of ways to get in contact with ourselves here on this show. And apart from that, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. And I hope you subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Apart from all that, then and I'll speak to you guys soon. I hope you have a great week, and we'll catch you over the weekend. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great time. Thank you. Bye-bye.